Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Time Expert 3965. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my girlfriend's half of dinner after she invited her whole family without telling me? So, my girlfriend and I planned a casual dinner date. I booked a nice spot, just the two of us. When I got there, I realized she had invited her parents, her brother, and even her cousin. I was caught off guard, but went along with it because I didn't want to make a scene. The bill comes, and it's nearly $400. She looks at me expecting me to cover it all. I told her I was happy to pay for our meals, but I didn't agree to bankroll her entire family's night out. She got upset, said a real man wouldn't have hesitated, and her mom made a comment about me being cheap. I ended up paying for just me and my girlfriend, and she had to split the rest with her family. Now she's angry and says I embarrass her. Her family thinks I'm rude. From my perspective, I was blindsided and it wasn't fair to expect me to cover a group dinner I didn't even agree to. Am I the asshole? Honestly, good on OP for not folding to his girlfriend's family and paying the unexpected $400. Their comments on whether or not you're a real man shouldn't matter to you, because they're ingrates. They're entitled. They're disrespectful. Honestly, judging by their logic, I'd be kind of horrified to find out what they find to be a real man. Does your girlfriend consider her dad to be a real man? Because, if so, why didn't he pay for the meal? How come he didn't pay for his wife's meal, his daughter's meal, his son's meal, his niece/nephew's meal? I suppose he's not a real man either. Your girlfriend's family sucks. Definitely not the asshole. This is just an extremely bizarre and entitled and manipulative situation that they threw you into. Fresh Plan 4244. Am I the asshole for drinking coffee in front of the kid? My girlfriend, 20, and I, 22 male, were taking care of our friend's little brother, 9, for the day, since she and their parents went out of town. We went to a cafe, and I asked what they wanted. My girlfriend said lemon tea, and the kid asked if he could have coffee. I said no. His parents once told me he always asks to try coffee, even though they always say no to the request. So he asked for chocolate cake instead. I got them the lemon tea and the chocolate cake, and iced coffee for myself. The kid didn't say anything, but my girlfriend later told me I shouldn't have had something he isn't allowed to, right in front of him. Your girlfriend's logic is about $1 short of $1. Like, the kid has to know that coffee is good from somewhere, right? Probably his parents drinking it around him. It's probably why he wants to try it, so I would doubt that it's something that the parents have in place where they don't drink anything the child's not allowed to have around him. Because then it comes down to the fact of like, okay, so what about alcohol and other things the kid might be exposed to and seeing people in his family do or drink at like special events or anything along those lines? Like, what about TV? If he sees someone drinking on TV, then what? Like, is he just supposed to live an extremely sheltered life and that's what it is? What about driving? Kid's not allowed to drive, so are you just not allowed to drive around him? Like, the kid seemed totally unfazed by being told no to whether he can have coffee or not. So my guess would be is he probably tries this all the goddamn time, which kind of was spelled out in the post, and he's just used to being shot down and he's like, well, worth a shot. If I had to hazard a long shot guess, a tinfoil hat theory from across the court, I think that your girlfriend was probably raised in a household where she was the oldest sibling and wasn't allowed to do things her younger siblings weren't allowed to do in front of them, just to kind of prevent inter-sibling drama. I'm not sure if that fully makes sense, but just considering the ages of her being 20, she's still kind of, growing into an adult at this point. And it would make sense for her to have that conclusion if she was raised in a household with those kind of rules. Let me know what you think, because that's just kind of a pet theory of mine that helps make her logic make sense, but I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who's $1 short of $1 with this logic here. Il statistici même. Am I the asshole for not completely changing my kid's life just to accommodate her father? I, 35 female, was with my ex Tom, 40 male, for a few years before having our daughter, 10 female. When she was a few weeks old, he moved out and in with some other girl and has rarely been involved. I finally put him on child support a few years ago, and you'd think he was Father of the Year for paying $300 a month. He never really had custody. I never kept her from him, but I wasn't going to chase him around trying to force him to be involved. Last year, he remarried Peggy, 45 female, and is now asking for more custody. Obviously, I talked to my daughter's therapist and agreed to every other weekend for now. I'm not forcing my kid to change her life just because Tom wants to play family. The problem is that Tom and Peggy's house is just miserable for my daughter. I'm trying to keep her positive about it, but honestly, they're just not the kind of people or behavior she's used to. They yell a lot, don't care about hygiene or keeping a clean house. Nothing CPS would do anything about, but does not meet normal standards, much less mine. And she hates Peggy's kids. There are 5, but 2 are older and on their own. But she has a son, 17, daughter, 12, and a son my daughter's age, and they're basically feral. Just no supervision over there. Always on their phones, no structure. Oh, and Peggy's an anti-vaxxer, so there's that whole situation. My daughter plays soccer, and they were 45 minutes late to the game last weekend, and didn't think it was that big of a deal. She was texting me, freaking out that she'd be late when I called Tom. He screamed at me for calling. Tom and Peggy also live out in the boonies. It's about a 25 to 30 minute drive from my house to theirs. I told him when he started coming around that I had no intention of driving hours or changing any aspect of our lives to accommodate him, and he promised it wouldn't be a problem. Now, here we are. And he's saying we need to set up a meeting point or switch off handovers. I'm already pissed that my daughter needs to be in a car for so long just because Peggy needs to have a lot of property. As in they bought property out in the boonies because there's a lot of it, so it's a long drive. I told him no way. He was the one that chose to live so far from us. He can do the driving. Finally, his most outrageous request has been to take my kid out of her school. She got into our district's competitive magnet school. It's not easy, and we both worked hard for it. Me just filling out the forms and setting up meetings, she got in on her own merits. Tom says that his stepkids, that apparently he's adopting now by the way, are jealous of what my daughter gets to do at school, and he wants to enroll her in their public school. Not happening. My daughter has male role models, ones who actually care about her well-being and not just social media clout. Tom... What an interesting sentence to throw in there. Tom can say he'll go to court, but I'll believe that when I see it. He has no gumption, and honestly, I doubt a judge would side with him anyways. I have always had full custody, have never kept her from him, but need to stick up for my kid. But does that make me the asshole? By social media clout, I'm guessing that your husband has been posting on Facebook or Instagram or wherever about how big and happy the family is, including photos of your daughter. That's probably what I'm guessing. And yeah, no, it's gross. The thing is, if your daughter is unhappy with the visits, then stop them. That's just the biggest thing. If she is miserable while there, then she shouldn't be going over there. Not to mention, he's actively trying to jeopardize your daughter's future for the sake of what? That his stepkids are jealous? Contact your lawyer, get a paper trail in check, talk with your daughter, see what she wants to do, and definitely make sure the school is 100% aware of the fact that if there's any kind of transfer request, to deny it. Last thing you want is your ex-husband trying to claim guardianship and enrolling your daughter in a school that she doesn't need to be going to. The whole soccer game incident sounds like they actually have no interest in your daughter's actual life and what she's interested in. Same thing goes for the school that she's currently in, the magnet school. The ex-husband here sounds like he's more interested over perception over performance. The kind of guy who would buy a Maserati for $10K and straddle up with other repair fees just so that way he can say he drives a Maserati despite the fact that it's internally falling apart. He doesn't care about how things actually go from there, just as long as he can say, I drive a Maserati. It's about the perception, the clout, the idea of it. Not the actual results or the day-to-day living experience. But additionally, as a quick Oz tangent when it comes to cars, getting a used performance luxury vehicle is usually a really bad idea unless you are ready to straddle up for potentially neglect on the internals. That's going to be a hell of a repair bill. Lupa Manil. Am I the asshole for calling my roommate out? I live with 2 other roommates, John and Sarah. Sarah has been here the longest. She's responsible for finances, electricity, gas, internet, paying rent to the landlord, contacting the cleaning lady. My issue is that I have the feeling that she didn't really lift a finger in doing the household. It was nothing major, but I felt like sometimes food went bad in the fridge that was hers. I wanted to clean out the freezer and found lots of stuff which I assumed was hers, but it might have not been. Our shared bathroom often had her stuff, empty bottles of shampoo laying around, things being a bit messy in her compartment or the bathroom. I felt like when I came home from work around 7 p.m., she was often on the couch. I cooked between 9 to 11 p.m. and never saw her in the kitchen, but I found sometimes dishes that stayed for one evening or a day in the sink. I never saw her unload the dishwasher or take out the trash. And when she did it last time before my remark, she forgot to do one bag. I never mentioned this to her until my breaking point. I told her she was a lazy slob who didn't lift a finger and how it was getting to me. She retaliated by saying that I often left the light, the oven, or the gas on, which has happened a few times and I have apologized for this, and that she has, in fact, often unloaded the dishwasher. She also indicated that me smoking pot was a huge issue and that the whole floor smelled, but that she hadn't mentioned it considering I just went through a bad breakup. It became a huge argument in which she basically said she would make sure I wouldn't notice she lived in the house, and that she didn't want to speak to me anymore. When I woke up the next day, the bathroom was spotless. She has removed all her stuff and cleaned everything. She had also cleaned the kitchen. She goes to work every day, stays in her room when she's home. None of her stuff is in the bathroom. She takes it from and to her room. And she hasn't used the kitchen. She orders from Uber Eats or goes to her boyfriend's place. The cleaning lady comes every week and she pays full every other week for that, which makes us only pay once every 2 weeks. The trash is taken out every week by her, and she has gone above and beyond, to my own damn surprise, to keep the house clean. I also realized she wasn't the only issue. Our other roommate John might be worse. The thing is, she still doesn't speak to me. I have tried speaking to her, knocked on her door and tried to go in, which she told me to get out. I know that she's going to sublet her room to someone for 6 months starting December. Am I the asshole in this matter? So, there's nothing wrong with wanting to keep a clean environment, but you gotta realize that you've kind of dropped the ball in your own ways. You left the stove on, you did things that were actually dangerous that could potentially cause a house fire, and also you may have jeopardized everyone's ability to get their deposit back by making the entire floor smell of weed. Difference being, besides the weed aspect, it sounds like that when problems occurred, your roommates addressed them to you directly, like leaving the burner on. What you did, however, was wait until it boiled over and pretty much yelled at your roommate. When you saw an issue that was bothering you, you should have brought it up in a cordial manner. But you didn't. You literally waited for you to reach a breaking point before you actually addressed the issues. Not to mention, you got home around 7 p.m. And you're stating that you never saw your roommates do X, Y, and Z. It sounds like you weren't home very often. I have no problem with you bringing up your grievances to your roommates, but you need to do it in a way that's not destructive, but productive. And in this case, you were destructive. And the current hostile environment you have in your living space is caused by you. Because the thing is, if you also had this conversation with Sarah, you would have also realized that, oh shit, some of the problems I've been attributing to Sarah is actually from John. And it sounds like Sarah did this on purpose. She removed herself from the equation entirely to show you that, yeah, it's not me. At this point in time, it sounds like your roommate wants very limited contact with you. What I would do is I would write her a letter apologizing for your actions and admitting where you fucked up on, and leave it at that, and accept the fact that you're probably never going to have any kind of connection with Sarah, ever, because of how you approached handling the problems. It's up to her if she wants to rekindle that kind of, connection or relationship. The most you can do is properly apologize and walk away. And that's what you should do. Lemon poppies. This one got murked by the moderators as I was reading it. I literally refreshed the page and it just was fucking gone. So, yeah. Am I the asshole for asking my neighbor to stop leaving their elderly parent on my porch for hours while they run errands, just because I happen to work from home? My neighbor kept leaving their elderly mom on my porch while they ran errands. I tried to be helpful and accepted it my first encounter. But then, I think that my neighbor started to think that I'm too kind and took advantage of it. I'd be in the middle of working and notice her just sitting there. for hours. And it made me feel trapped because I never agreed to watch her. But at the same time, I pitied the elderly. It stressed me out knowing I was being put in that position without any choice. I'm a kind neighbor, but this is too much. I have my own life, my own deadlines and problems, and I can't focus on my life while also worrying if someone might drop an old woman on my porch. I'm soft-hearted, and if something happens to the elderly, the guilt would eat me up. If she fell or got sick, I know it would somehow fall back on me, and that thought really bothered me. I told them to stop leaving her at my place, but somehow she insisted that I don't have to watch her at all since she's just sitting there doing nothing. But still, as I said, I can't handle the guilt if anything happens. I don't get why people are like this. I wouldn't even let my dog outside. How can they take leaving their own relative outside? So the moderators also nuked all of OP's comments, so I can't even see their responses, which is weird. There's a comment here which pretty much says exactly what I would have said, but with even more advice, so I think this one was better than any tangent I could possibly give. Apologies if I butcher the username. Feyarat Zora. Wow, this is not okay on so many levels, and you may be looking at a case of elder abuse. You absolutely need to reach out to social services. I assume the background is that the mom has dementia. Having cared for my own mom while she was living at home with dementia, I think I have some grounds on which to say all this. Your neighbor may be well-intentioned but overwhelmed, or she doesn't care about her mom, or even resents her. She may be engaging in elder abuse, even if she may be doing so unintentionally/thoughtlessly. I think you need to talk to her and watch for her reaction so you know what to tell Adult Protective Services. But you need to call APS no matter what. If she's overwhelmed, call them and tell them she probably needs help. If you get the sense that she's indifferent, call them and express strong concern about the mother's level of care and the possibility of elder abuse. Caregiving is hard at the best of times, and if there's resentment in addition to caregiving stress, along with no oversight, then unfortunately, elder abuse is not uncommon. Leaving her outside on your porch for hours means, I am guessing, just that. She's sitting. Without water, without access to a restroom, and without food? She's probably very dehydrated, common issue with ESP with dementia. If she's wearing a diaper, then she's sitting in her wet diaper for hours. Just in terms of physical comfort, this is completely irresponsible and rather cruel. And who knows how the mom deals with this mentally. If that's what passes as acceptable care in your neighbor's eyes, APS needs to investigate the care situation at home, even if she stops putting her on your porch. Is the mother still mobile? If so, your neighbor is also accepting the possibility of her mom wandering off the porch and going anywhere. Into traffic, off into town, into someone's backyard, anywhere. I don't need to explain why that is so very, very bad. I'm sorry you have to be the one to do this, but that woman needs a lot more help than you can give her, and more than she is currently getting. Please call Adult Protective Services and make a report. Natizio. Am I the asshole for being willing to end my marriage because I refused to uproot my kids from their life to follow my stepkids? My wife and I have been together for 4 years, married for almost 2. We both have kids. My daughter is 11 and my son is 9. We lost their mom when they were younger. My wife had been divorced for many years and shared custody of her 15 and 16-year-old with her ex until a few months ago, when he was granted permission to move to another state with their kids, because their kids wanted to go with their dad. My wife doesn't want to be away from her kids for long periods of time, and she's told me she's moving. She feels like she needs to be near her kids. I support this, but I won't move my kids away from family, friends, and stability to do this. My kids don't want to move either. They heard my wife mention it several weeks ago, and they told me they don't want to leave. They'd miss everyone too much. I already know the life my kids have here is what they need and where they thrive. I explained this to my wife, and she was defeated. She told me we can't make a marriage work if I'm here and she's there. And I said, I agree. And I told her I believe the best way forward would be to divorce. She was upset by this, of course, and we talked and I comforted her. And she asked me if there was anything she could say or do to make me reconsider. I told her I won't move my children, and I would never ask her to be apart from her kids for months at a time. I said we're both committed to the best interest of our individual children, and that means doing what's right for them, even if it's not right for us as a couple. She asked for us to talk it out some more, and we have. We've talked about it extensively, but all the while, she's been making arrangements for a place where her ex and kids now live and a new job. I think she believed I would change my mind the more we discussed everything, but I have not. And now she's angry that I would rather our marriage end than move so we can all be together as a family. But I know this is not what's best for my kids. Am I the asshole? Definitively, OP is not the asshole. He's putting his kids first, and their future, and their stability, and the environment they've grown up in first. The 15 and 16-year-olds are the ones who chose to move with their father. Their mother has decided to follow that. Her expecting OP to be willing to lift up not just himself and his job, and their home and their environment, but also the kids, and their schools, their friends, the area they grew up in. So she can follow her kids? That's unfair. She is 100% within her right to follow her children, and that's a commendable thing. But the only question that I really have is, if they did stay, what would have happened if they went off to college? They're 15 and 16. They're almost at that age. Would she have expected the same scenario to happen if they moved off to a college out of state? Would they have needed to pack up their lives and find a new place within that same city? I'm just asking this as a general curiosity here. But in the end, OP is doing right by his kids. He's being a good dad, and he's being extremely goddamn mature about this whole situation of the fact of, I can't uproot my kids' lives, and I don't want to keep you from going and spending time with your kids and keeping that connection alive. So I think the best thing for a relationship is for us to split. And OP's wife, or presumably future ex-wife, is getting angry that OP is putting his kids first. I think a genuine question to present to her would be, how come my kid's choice to stay here is circumvented and superseded by your kid's choice to move out of state? And just see what her reaction is. But in the end, definitely not the asshole. KBrick2727. Am I the asshole for letting my dogs run wild? Around 4:45 p.m. yesterday, I, 36 male, let both of our standard poodles out. Soon after my family started dinner and forgotten that our dogs were outside, best estimate is that they were out for about 15 minutes before we looked out and saw them barking at a tree. I presume they saw a squirrel go up. I went out and beckoned them in. Soon after, our doorbell rang. I put the dogs away and answered it. An elder man announced himself as living in the house behind us and proclaimed that he was tired of our dogs barking constantly. I told him that it's likely they just saw a squirrel or something. He said he didn't care and let us know if it continued he was going to call animal control. My wife, 34 female, and I just kind of stood in disbelief. After he left, I began panic researching noise ordinances. I am posting these below with a best guess of how often we let our dogs out, how long they bark for, and during what times to see if we're on the verge of having an official complaint filed against us or if this is just the rantings of a disgruntled elder. I also will post our sittings rulings as well. I'm going to call animal control and the city as well and hope we aren't in fear of losing our pups. We let out our dogs about 5 to 7 times a day at most. We have an invisible fence and they stay on our property all times. Usually, times between 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m., 9 to 10 p.m., occasionally around 11. Our city's quiet hours are 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Our dogs bark when they first go out like they're on a dog hunt. If they see people walking, other animals or dogs, they bark as well. At most, they will be out 5 to 10 minutes at a time. I told my wife we should only let them outside quiet hours, 11 to 7, from now on. I told her too we should set a timer for 5 minutes for fear we don't meet the causing frequent or continued noise. So, am I the asshole? Let me know what you think below. Honestly, it sounds like your neighbor reached a breaking point. Like, to you it may not seem like a big deal for your dogs to be barking 5 to 10 minutes for, statter times of the day, but that is not fun. You're used to it. Your neighbors don't like that. They don't want to hear that. I know that when I'm in my booth and I hear my neighbor's dogs barking for 30 minutes to an hour at a time, it really gets under my goddamn skin. And it's one of the reasons why my sleep schedule's so fucked up is because I have to be here at 1 a.m. so that way I don't have to worry about my recordings being ruined by a dog barking. I am lucky that I enjoy being a night owl, so this isn't a massive deal for me, but it is part of the reasons why I'm stuck always with a deprived sleep schedule. I've got neighbors on one side that the moment their dogs start barking, they're inside within 30 seconds to a minute, without fail. I love those neighbors. On the other side, I have neighbors that have kind of an open door policy with their dog, and they'll go to work and the dog can just go outside and bark to his heart's content for 30 minutes to an hour at a time. It is exhausting, especially because sometimes it happens when I'm trying to sleep. Thank God for noise-canceling headphones. And this is coming from someone who has been raised and surrounded by dogs for my entire life, and who has dealt with training dogs to not bark at every little nuisance. Because of my parents being divorced and being raised by multiple families and step-parents at a time, I have been around and been raised with over 14 dogs throughout my life. Sizes ranging from Shih Tzus to Bulldogs, to Pit Bulls, to Boxers, to Rottweilers. You're responsible for your dog's behavior, and you're responsible for making sure that they're not being a nuisance for your neighbors. Additionally, Opie in the comments has admitted to the fact that they don't actively walk their dogs. They will just let them outside and have them get their energy out that way. And keep in mind, these are poodles. Like, your dogs are gonna bark. Yeah, but you can mitigate that to make the quality of life better for everyone around you, because you're not just disrupting you, you're disrupting everyone who's living around you. And it's just the nice thing to do and not asshole thing to do to try to mitigate the barking as much as you possibly can, which it sounds like you're working towards. So good on you. But still, your previous behavior is still in the asshole category. Because while you've only had one complaint from a grumpy neighbor so far, I guarantee it's not just him. Especially because you described their barking to be akin to them going on a dog hunt. Like, yeah, you're technically well within city ordinance, sure, but I'm also within city ordinance to go outside at 10 p.m. and run a miter saw on my driveway. That falls within noise ordinance. I'd still be a fucking asshole if I did that though. As an ending note, get your poodles something to mentally stimulate them, like a food game or something along those lines. It's good for their brains. Poodles like thinking. They're a scary breed when it comes to how smart they are. It's unnerving sometimes. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSups. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.